Hi, I'm Cynthia from cynfullarts.ca, and we're here to read J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit. And this is episode 6. Undoubtedly, that was what brought the dragon. Dragons steal gold and jewels, from men and elves and dwarves, whenever they can find them, and they guard their plunder as long as they live, which is practically forever unless they are killed, and never enjoy a brass ring of it. Indeed, they hardly know a good bit of work from bad, though they usually have a good notion of the current market value, and they can't make a thing for themselves, not even mend the little loose scales of their armor. There were lots of dragons in the north in those days, and gold was probably getting scarce up there, with the dwarves flying south or getting killed, and all the general waste and destructions that dragons make going from bad to worse. There was most specifically greedy, strong, and wicked worm called Smaug. One day he flew up into the air and came south. The first we heard of it was a noise like a hurricane coming from the north, and the pine trees on the mountains creaking and cracking in the wind. Some of the dwarves who happened to be outside, I was one lucky, a fine adventurous lad in those days, always wandering about, and it saved my life that day. Well, from a good way off, we saw the dragon settle on our mountain in a spout of flame. Then he came down the slopes, and when he reached the woods, they all went up in fire. By the time all the bells are ringing in Dale, the warriors were arming. The dwarves rushed out of their great gate, but there was the dragon waiting for them. None escaped that way. The river rushed up in steam, and a fog fell on Dale, and in the fog the dragon came on them and destroyed most of the warriors. The usual unhappy story. It was only too common in those days. He then went back and crept into the front gate and rooted out all the halls and lanes and tunnels, alleys, cellars, mansions, and passages. After that, there were no dwarves left alive inside, and he took all their wealth for himself. Probably, for that is the dragon's way. He has it piled up in a great heap far inside, and sleeps on it for a bed. Later he used to crawl out of the great gate and come by night to Dale, and carry away people, especially maidens, to eat, until Dale was ruined, and all the people dead or gone. What goes on there now, I do not know for certain, but I don't suppose anyone lives nearer to the mountain than the far edge of the long lake nowadays. The few of us that were well outside sat and wept in hiding, and cursed Smaug, and there we were, unexpectedly joined by my father and my grandfather, with singed beards. They looked very grim, but they said very little. When I asked how they got that way, they told me to hold my tongue, and said that one day, in the proper time, I should know. After that, we went away, and we had to earn our livings as best we could up and down the lands, often sinking as low as blacksmith work, or even coal mining. But we have never forgotten our stolen treasure, and even now, I will allow we have a good bit laid by and are not so badly off. Here, Thorin stroked the gold chain around his neck. We still meant to get it back and bring it our curses home to Smaug, if we can. I have often wondered about my father's and my grandfather's escape. I see now they must have had a private side door, which only they knew about. But apparently they made a map, and I should like to know how Gandalf got a hold of it, and why it did not come down to me, the rightful heir. I did not get a hold of it. I was given it, said the wizard. Your grandfather Thor was killed, and you remember, in the mines of Mora by Asgog the goblin. Curse his name, yes, said Thorin. And Thrain, your father, went away on the 21st of April, 100 years ago last Thursday, and has never been seen by you since. True, true, says Thorin. Well, your father gave me this to give to you, and if I have chosen my own time and way of handling it over, you can hardly blame me, considering the trouble I had to find you. Your father could not remember his own name when he gave me the paper, and he never told me yours, so on the whole, I think I ought to be praised and thanked. Here it is, he said, handing the map over to Thorin. I don't understand, said Thorin, and Bilbo felt he would have liked to say the same. The explanation did not seem to explain. Your grandfather, said the wizard slowly and grimly, gave the map to his son for safety before he went to the mines of Mora. Your father went away to try his luck with the map after your grandfather was killed, and lots of adventures of most unpleasant sort he had. But he never got near the mountain. How he got there, I don't know, but I found him a prisoner in the dungeons of the necromancer. Whatever were you doing there? Asked Thorin, with a shudder, and all the dwarves shivered. Never you mind, I was finding things out. As usual, and a nasty, dangerous business it was. Even I, Gandalf, only just escaped. I tried to save your father, but it was too late. He was witless and wandering, and had forgotten almost everything except the map and the key. We have long ago paid the golems of Moria, said Thorin. We must give a thought to the necromancer. Don't be absurd. He is an enemy quite beyond the powers of all the dwarves put together, if they could all be collected again from the four corners of the world. The one thing your father wished for was for his son to read the map and use the key. The dragon and the mountain are more than big enough task for you. Hear, hear, said Bilbo, accidentally, and said it out loud. Hear what? They all said, turning suddenly towards him, and he was so flustered that he answered, Hear what I have to say. What's that? They asked. Well, I should say that you ought to go east and have a look around. After all, there is a side door, and dragons must sleep sometimes, I suppose. If you sit on the doorstep long enough, I dare say we'll think of something, and well, don't you know, I think we have talked long enough for one night, if you see what I mean. What about bed and an early start and all that? I will give you a good breakfast before you go. Before we go, I suppose you mean, said Thorin. Aren't you the burglar? And isn't sitting on the doorstep your job, not to speak of getting inside the door? But I agree about bed and breakfast. I like eggs with ham when starting on a journey, fried, not poached, and mind you, don't break them. After all the others had ordered their breakfast without so much as a please, which annoyed Bilbo very much, they all got up. The Hobbit had to find a room for them all, and filled his spare rooms and made beds on chairs and sofas before he got them all stowed, and went on his own little bed very tired and not altogether happy. One thing he did make up his mind about was not to bother to get up very early and cook everyone else's wretched breakfast. The tookishness was wearing off, and he was not now quite so sure that he was going on any journey in the morning. As he lay in bed, he could hear Thorin still humming to himself in the best bedroom next to him. Far over the misty mountain cold, to the dungeons deep and caverns old, we must away or break the day, to find our long-forgotten gold. Bilbo went to sleep with that in his ears, and it gave him very uncomfortable dreams. It was long after the break of day when he woke up. And would you believe it? It is now Chapter 2, Roast Mutton. So make sure you tune in next week to hear Chapter 2. Don't forget to follow this channel so you can hear more of The Hobbit. And smash that like button. And go check out cynfullarts.ca as we have dropped new items for your Christmas shopping. If you would like to show this channel some love, then go on over to my Ko-fi page. And I hope you tune in next week for more of The Hobbit.